You're a totally gross, boring nerd. You're a totally gross, boring nerd. Freaky bonehead. You're a totally freaky, boring bonehead. Ugly loser. You're a totally ugly, boring loser. Slimy geek. You're a totally slimy, boring geek. Weird dweeb. You're a totally weird, boring dweeb. Slobbering whip. You're a totally slobbering, boring whip. Stinky weasel. You're a totally stinky, boring weasel. You're a completely gross, obnoxious nerd. You're a completely gross, obnoxious nerd. Freaky bonehead. You're a completely freaky, obnoxious bonehead. Ugly loser. You're a completely ugly, obnoxious loser. Slimy geek. You're a completely slimy, obnoxious geek. Weird dweeb. You're a completely weird, obnoxious dweeb. Slobbering whip. You're a completely slobbering, obnoxious whip. Stinky weasel. You're a completely stinky, obnoxious weasel. You're the ultimate gross, greasy nerd. You're the ultimate gross, greasy nerd. Freaky bonehead. You're the ultimate freaky, greasy bonehead. Ugly loser. You're the ultimate ugly, greasy loser. Slimy geek. You're the ultimate slimy, greasy geek. Weird dweeb. You're the ultimate weird, greasy dweeb. Slobbering whip. You're the ultimate slobbering, greasy whip. Stinky weasel. You're the ultimate stinky, greasy weasel. You're a real, gross, sneaky nerd. You're a real, gross, sneaky nerd. Freaky bonehead. You're a real, freaky, sneaky bonehead. Ugly loser. You're a real, ugly, sneaky loser. Slimy geek. You're a real, slimy, sneaky geek. Weird dweeb. You're a real, weird, sneaky dweeb. Slobbering whip. You're a real, slobbering, sneaky whip. Stinky weasel. You're a real, stinky, sneaky weasel. You're a big, gross, wacky nerd. You're a big, gross, wacky nerd. Freaky bonehead. You're a big, freaky, wacky bonehead. Ugly loser. You're a big, ugly, wacky loser. Slimy geek. You're a big, slimy, wacky geek. Weird dweeb. You're a big, weird, wacky dweeb. Slobbering whip. You're a big, slobbering, wacky whip. Stinky weasel. You're a big, stinky, wacky weasel. You're a super gross, creepy nerd. You're a super gross, creepy nerd. Freaky bonehead. You're a super freaky, creepy bonehead. Ugly loser. You're a super ugly, creepy loser. Slimy geek. You're a super slimy, creepy geek. Weird dweeb. You're a super weird, creepy dweeb. Slobbering whip. You're a super slobbering, creepy whip. Stinky weasel. You're a super stinky, creepy weasel. You're a gigantic, gross, wormy nerd. You're a gigantic, gross, wormy nerd. Freaky bonehead. You're a gigantic, freaky, wormy bonehead. Ugly loser. You're a gigantic, ugly, wormy loser. Slimy geek. You're You're a gigantic, slimy, wormy geek. Weird dweeb. You're a gigantic, weird, wormy dweeb. Slobbering whip. You're a gigantic, slobbering, wormy whip. Stinky weasel. You're a gigantic, stinky, wormy weasel.